When I was a kid, I always played SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, which we will continue to refer to as BFBB, on the PlayStation 2, as well as its newer, rehydrated counterpart from 2020. And even the SpongeBob movie game back on the PlayStation 2, as well as all the Nicktoon games and everything else that came out back in the early 2000s. Regardless, I was really excited to hear that Purple Lamp and THQ Nordic would be creating a spiritual successor to that of BFBB. And when I saw the first trailer, I figured we'd be in for a treat. So I'm happy to present this video as my experience and review of the game. So let's hop into this review and discuss the story, animation and art style, voice acting, the music, the gameplay, and my finishing thoughts. To start us off hot is the story. As it usually goes with SpongeBob stories, it's very charming, goofy, and just wacky altogether. However, something about it makes me feel as though it lacks a certain something BFBB and the movie game had. Although I personally think this, I can't articulate as to why I feel this. It could be the nostalgia that I have for the older games, just because I grew up on them, and that this game doesn't have that, but I'm not really too sure. Not that it's any less than that of BFBB or the movie game in terms of quality. Regardless, I still really enjoyed it. Exactly what I was expecting, and I wouldn't have made it much different. The comedy in the game feels very classic to original SpongeBob episodes and gags, and it really makes a ton of old school jokes, Easter eggs, and references to older episodes. Like the chocolate guy making a cameo appearance in Rock Bottom.
Chocolate? Did you say chocolate?
Yes, sir. With or without nuts.
Chocolate? Chocolate! 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 Chocolate!
Or the Glove World's significance throughout the game, and being a very fun post-game level as well, mind you. Or maybe the seahorse who eats cheeseburgers, the anchovies, Pearl always saying coral as hip slang, the SpongeGar meme brought completely to life, or Patrick being, well, Patrick. It was a very fun playthrough, and actually had some very decent comedy as far as SpongeBob goes, and had great comedic deliveries sometimes too. They make a bunch more references to the older episodes, but you'd be here for an hour if we wanted to talk about all of them. Moving on, as for animation and art style, this time they actually decided to do something a little bit different. And at first, I wasn't sold on the animation and art style. It is far different to BFBB and even rehydrated. It felt very rubbery and different, but this isn't a bad thing. The studio did their own thing with that, and I actually really appreciated that. Even so, after about 15-30 minutes, you really get used to it, if you didn't to begin with, like me, and you actually really start to appreciate and enjoy it. As for the voice actors, I believe that all of the voice actors are actually present as far as I can tell. And I don't know if it was my ears or the fact Tom Kenny is just getting a little bit older now, but SpongeBob sounded very different. It isn't misplaced or jarring, he just sounded a bit different at times when I was playing the game. Not necessarily a negative complaint, it's still the original voice actor, so I can respect that, especially 20 years later. Everyone else to me sounded absolutely perfect, and I don't think anyone at all underperformed. And I'm not implying Tom Kenny did, but they all did fantastic. It was almost as if they used clips from a cut episode made 20 years ago. My favorite characters that I saw that did a hilarious and fantastic job were Plankton, Patrick, and Squidward. Patrick's just goated. He's kind of just a given. Also, the best character in the game, unlike BFBB, he's actually in this game and was very fun to see and hear, was the infamous Mr. Krabs. And of course he was played by the legendary Clancy Brown. So as a longtime fan of BFBB, that was a fun surprise. Still can't believe he didn't come back for Rehydrated though. On to the music. All of the Dimensions soundtrack themes were very catchy and reminded me of Crash or Spyro in terms of how quick and catchy the themes got, especially the prehistoric dimension. I also really loved booting the game up for the first time because it was a theme used a lot in the show. I'll play a few clips here for examples. Alright, now on to gameplay. As far as the gameplay goes, it hasn't changed too drastically from BFBB. Aside from some SpongeBob movesets being removed and new movesets being created, such as the new pizza box glider, feeling is a lesser version of the Breath of the Wild glider, minus the stamina requirement. The Cruise Bubble and Bubble Bowl are unfortunately not in the game, the Bubble Bowl being one of my favorite movesets from BFBB. I know, call me a crazy person. As well as the playable character variety not being present, like being able to play as Sandy or Patrick, in addition to SpongeBob. The only playable character in this game will be SpongeBob, but Patrick is a consistent companion throughout the entire game. Furthermore, the Sandy Lasso is unfortunately not in this game due to this. However, the new karate kick ability in the Cosmic Shake kinda replaces that mid-air traversal ability. And after mastering the kick ability, I must say I might like it even more than the Bubble Bowl. It is really fun to chain kicks and stay in the air as long as you possibly can. Something about that makes it extremely entertaining. The map designs for the entire game were simplistic, very fun, and the theme of each dimension was very fitting and relatable to all other SpongeBob media. It really felt like the devs put a lot of love and care into their craft. Such as Karate Tower, Glove World, Jellyfish Fields, prehistoric SpongeGar era Bikini Bottom, Rock Bottom, and the medieval castle from that one medieval SpongeBob episode. In addition, the levels are also very lengthy, the average level playthrough being around 20 to 30 minutes each. They are overall very fun, lengthy levels filled with Easter eggs and references, so as you go through them, you will never be bored. As for the boss fights, all of them are very trivial and easy, and you will scoop past them with ease. However, if you are an achievement hunter like me and you're going for the 100% trophy like I did, the Sandy boss level challenge is actually quite a challenge. I found myself stuck on that challenge for 30 to 40 minutes alone. Call it a skill issue, but not being hit by her Wheel of Death was difficult, as well as her bodyguards that spawn 2/3 the way through the fight, that also have some very inconsistent hitboxes. Aside from that one boss challenge, the rest are very easy to get through. In fact, I thought they were a little too easy, like the final boss fight against the Squidward Kraken and how it felt like it was over before it even started. Although the BFBB bosses were also very easy, they always had a bit more going on, like lassoing around the arena during the Robo Patrick fight, or the platforming section of the Robo SpongeBob fight, and then going inside it and using cruise bubbles to take it down. There was always a bit more of a challenge in the previous titles, unlike this one, which is a little too simplistic. The only fights that felt similar in terms of challenge in this game was the Pearl or Glovey Glove boss fight, which were both significantly easier than anything in BFBB, but were the closest in terms of challenge. Now before you go, well, this isn't a Dark Souls game, so why are you reviewing it like one? You are correct, it is in fact not a Dark Souls level of challenge. However, I believe some challenge here could have been added. As in BFBB, when playing as a kid, I always found the boss fights not hard, but more complex, even if the complexity of the fights were simplistic. Overall, the boss fights were what they needed to be. I just wish a bit more was added to them is all. Now we have to discuss some negatives of the game regarding bugs and glitches. Unfortunately, there are, or at least by this point in time, were quite a few issues in this department. One game-breaking glitch that actually happened to me and scrubbed my entire 7-hour initial playthrough, to which I had to restart from scratch, as well as a couple other minor bugs that weren't terribly an issue. For example, in the Pearl fight, I died having hit her last second, and so the fight ended, but I got stuck in a consistent spawn-die cycle beneath the map, and the game set a checkpoint there. I then saved and quit, and then reloaded the game, and it fixed the no-clipping death issue, but then I couldn't progress the story further and unlock new main missions because Squidward didn't get properly saved. So I had to restart the entire game from scratch because the 3 autosaves that the game gives you, and which I had, were after the fight. By the time I figured out what was wrong, it was too late. The other bug that was very consistent was unfortunately the kick ability itself. For some reason, if you kick from a decent chunk of distance away, I don't know how specific, it will shoot you into the area where the enemy was, but will never actually let you register a hit, and sometimes because of this, you would actually take damage yourself. Not too big of an issue once you know how to counter it by just getting closer, so I can't complain too much, but it still was very consistent. Lastly was the platforming. The platforming was very fun, and that's actually not my complaint regarding the platforming, because I actually did love every minute of it. It felt like I was playing BFBB again. However, there yet again should have been just a touch of more difficulty put into some of the endgame platforming, as I feel as though it just lacked challenge. I mean, even the movie game had those sponge block, sponge ball mini games that added extra complexity to the platforming, and as a kid, it was really challenging at times. However, this game doesn't even attempt to offer any complexity to its depth in terms of platforming. Call me a hater, but I love Crash Bandicoot, I love Super Mario, I love Spyro, and even SpongeBob. So when it comes to platforming, I have a wee bit of experiential knowledge. And unfortunately, nothing about this game was hard. However, that's not entirely a bad thing. It made for a really fun, relaxing, casual playthrough of a platformer, so I ended up getting what I wanted in the end. I just felt the need to mention how easy the game is. It should have had a hint more challenge to its overall flavor. As for achievement hunters, if you are looking to 100% this game for achievements, as I did, expect to sink in at least 10 to 12 hours, which is roughly the same length of a BFBB casual 100% run. Should you get it? Which brings us into my final thoughts. I do in fact believe that you should go out and buy this game. The studio really did a great job, as much as my opinions towards the end may contradict. It felt cared for, thoughtful, thought out, and very well written as far as SpongeBob goes. I could have definitely seen this game coming out years ago around the time of my childhood and being a large success, much like BFBB in the movie game. For those who got annoyed by my comparisons to the previous games, I apologize, but I love and hold those two games dearly. And because of that, I needed to make the connections, as this game is a spiritual sequel. I do think everything the studio wanted to execute was perfectly done so, and I believe they crafted a wonderful SpongeBob platformer experience. I would rate this game a solid 85%. For me personally, I wanted a bit more challenge. Some mechanics didn't function as instructed, such as the kick move and the game-breaking boss fight glitch with Pearl. That really ruined my motivation for making this video. However, if I wanted to review this game from a casual perspective, with the game being a trivially easy platformer, and that was its full intention, I would give it a solid 95%. Regardless, I highly believe that you should go out and get it, as it was a very fun time. That'll wrap up my little video opinion on SpongeBob the Cosmic Shake. Did you enjoy the video? Did you enjoy what I had to say? Maybe you didn't like anything I had to say at all. Feel free to discuss it down below in the comments. Let's have a discussion. Anyway, that'll wrap it up. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.